Hello everyone, this is Carson from Top & Go Productions with a new video showcasing Quasimofo's Mono Black Horobi Death's Wail Commander deck. The deck has a partial zombie theme to it, and takes full advantage of both the zombie deck's ability to overrun an opponent, as well as the frailty brought on by Horobi's ability. Let's take a look. Horobi Death's Wail is a 4/4 flying legendary spirit from Kamigawa with a converted mana cost of 4. If that isn't value enough for you, he packs a powerful ability that, if managed properly, can really help you control the game. When Horobi is in play, whenever a creature becomes the target of a spell or an ability, destroy that creature. This is a double-edged sword if we ever saw one, but running a zombie sub-theme with plenty of recursion should generate more value, while your opponent's dudes aren't just dying. It should be obvious with Horobi's ability that this deck excels at blasting away creatures, but any mono-black deck worth its salt has to be able to kill something at a moment's notice. This deck packs an excellent removal package that is both versatile and powerful. Aphotic Wisps. Kill a creature at instant speed and draw a card. Just great card advantage. Glistening Oil is a repeatable creature kill spell for just double black with Horobi out. Even without Horobi, it is a rather reliable way to kill creatures. Another black staple is included with Grave Pact. It makes it so that when your creatures die, even more of your opponent's creatures have to die too. Tragic Slip. Even without Horobi, this has the potential to kill almost anything. It can allow a lowly 2/2 zombie token to trade with a mighty Worldspine Worm. Black Sun Zenith is a fantastic board wipe that has a lot of synergies with other spells in the deck. Not usually part of a removal package, Staff of Nin acts as a one-sided Howling Mine, and coupled with Horobi will nuke creatures for the low cost of no mana. Let's have a look at some of the undead beaters in the deck. Cemetery Reaper, Gempalm Polluter, Geralf's Messenger, Gravecaller, and Unbreathing Horde form up the front lines of Horobi's undead army, while Mikaeus the Unhallowed gives a +1/+1 buff and the very powerful Undying ability. Horobi loves this. Grave Titan especially loves the Undying, putting more and more walking corpses into play. Death Baron is another pump for all our zombies, and has the added ability of giving Death Touch to all the zombies, keeping our opponent's creatures in check even if Horobi is not on the field. Endless Ranks of the Dead keeps the zombie infestation coming every turn and becomes more and more of a threat as the game progresses. And since we're talking zombies, who could forget Army of the Damned? So many zombies. With Flashback. Quest for the Gravelord can really pile on the counters quickly with all the removal packs in the deck. Spitting out a 5/5 zombie is no joke. In the true spirit of Rising from the Grave, Cauldron of Souls will bring all of your non-token zombies back for another kick at the can. Now remember that Horobi's ability will destroy creatures who are targeted. Unlike many powerful black creatures and spells, it doesn't cause a sacrifice effect, meaning that Avacyn and the like will still be formidable opponents for Horobi. Luckily, we have a way around this. Corrosive Mentor will give all your guys the ability to put -1/-1 counters on opposing creatures. Combined with Fume Spitter and Blowfly Infestation, the negative counters can add up quickly and take care of any opposition that Horobi cannot. Consumptive Goo does one better by putting -1/-1 counters on creatures while making itself bigger in the process. Fevered Convulsions has a similar ability in enchantment form. Caustic Crawler may not put counters on creatures, but it can still use its landfall trigger to blow up dudes with Horobi's ability, and 4/3 is a decent sized body. If Horobi is on the battlefield, Shambling Swarm dying is like hitting an opponent with half of a hex. If the spirit isn't around, it's still a great way to spread around negative counters. Skirkridge Exhumer counts towards our zombie army and does double duty by both pumping out more zombies and placing -1/-1 counters on that stuff that just has to die. Crumbling Ashes is a low-cost enchantment that will pair well with all these counters to add Horobi's effect to the board even if he's not around. With all these -1/-1 counter enablers, it gives another way to get a similar ability the deck is built around on the board if Horobi is tucked or his cost gets too high. Perilous Mirror is essentially another Fume Spitter without the benefit of the -1/-1 counter, but with the added ability to hit an opponent for 2 damage if you choose. Anyone can build a deck to pile up the bodies with Horobi, but having a backup plan for indestructible creatures makes this deck really shine. Smokestack can start to force them to lose their other permanents. With token production, Bloodghast, and Crucibled lands, you can comfortably live with this crippling artifact throughout the game. Jinxed Idol, Sangromancer, Dingus Staff, and Blood Artist will all chip away at your opponent's life totals and force them to make hard choices with their limited resources. Taking Smokestack one step further, no black deck is complete without Sheoldred Whispering One. It builds on the stacks part of the deck and adds pure value when you get a creature back on your own turn. This deck packs utility when you need it. Demonic and Diabolic Tutors will let you fetch up the answers you need when you need them. If a straight up tutor isn't what you need, try Necropotence. Unrivaled card advantage, a truly broken card in EDH. This deck may excel at pumping out the undead, but they won't help much against flyers. Bitter Blossom does what it does best, chumping dragons all day until they can be targeted and removed. If you need a little bit bigger of a body with wings, Scaresdag High Priest is also part of the 99 and can easily pump out 5/5 flying beat sticks with all the death floating around. Of course, these are simply half measures until Eldrazi Monument hits the field and all of the undead start flying. Hex Parasite. It's worth noting that, in fact, you can remove 0 counters from a creature, which will still blow it up with Horobi around. Instant speed removal whenever it's needed. Bloodghast. The inherent frailty all creatures have because of Horobi means that a creature that refuses to stay dead is just that much more useful. Bloodghast can help serve as an engine for cards like Smokestack and Eldrazi Monument as well. Pawn of Ulamog is a very useful creature that will provide a token and potential mana every time a creature of ours dies. Sensei's Divining Top and Skull Clamp are 2 commander staples for a reason. The top lets you dig for answers, while the clamp works well with all the zombie tokens to draw until you find what you need. With a commander that enables removal like Horobi does, it would be a shame to just stop at things with bodies. The 2-card punch that is Fendeep Summoner and Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth will enable you to turn your opponent's lands into creatures and then blow them up with Horobi. Good commander decks are powerful, but great ones can adapt to changing situations and new opponents or metas. If you're staring down an opponent that uses lots of artifacts to win instead of creatures, don't worry. Karn Silver Golem can turn their artifacts into creatures for targeting to kill with Horobi. Massacre Worm and Midnight Banshee will help deal with any token armies you might be facing down, and the Worm's static ability is incredibly powerful with Horobi's ability. Midnight Banshee couples well with Crumbling Ashes and Blowfly Infestation to wreak havoc on your opponent's board state. Necroskitter is another great creature that makes use of -1/-1 counters, but not for the same reasons as the ones mentioned earlier. Whenever an opponent's creature with a -1/-1 counter hits the yard, it comes back under your control. Combined with Horobi's ability and Corrosive Mentor, you will have yourself an entirely new army made out of all of your opponent's troops. Cryptghast. Other than the staple Soul Ring, this deck doesn't run any mana rocks. The Ghast will effectively double all mana produced from swamps and becomes especially powerful with Yawgmoth out. Genju of the Fens. This card provides a pumpable beater, or it can be another way with Urborg to kill off your opponent's lands. Take that, Mazavith. Veilstone Amulet. While not as reliable as something like Lightning Greaves, it will give blanket protection for the team with Horobi out when its conditions are met. Glaring Spotlight. Goodbye Hexproof, hello Horobi. This deck has ways of controlling its own zombies, as well as turning its opponent's creatures into zombies. Unhallowed Pact. Gain control of an opponent's biggest threat. With Horobi, you don't even have to wait. Grim Return gives a similar effect and is a great pick and choose card after a board wipe. Backing up the zombie army is Grave Betrayal, which will bring creatures your opponents controlled back under your control with the added zombie creature type. Mimic Vat is an amazing card that has a low cost of use and can exile pesky creatures as they hit the yard and imprint them for abuse on our side of the table. If just taking one thing at a time from the yard just is too darn slow, don't fret. The newly printed Rise of the Dark Realms with its amazing art can get the job done en masse. This deck features 2 of the best Planeswalkers Black has to offer. Liliana Vess. Her ultimate is downright powerful and on theme for the deck, but her -2 ability is always welcome. Soren Markov is the other walker in the deck. His minus ability is fantastic in EDH when life totals start to get out of hand, but with Horobi out, his +2 ability is another form of removal. Now for the mana base of the deck. Baron Moor. Card draw or black mana. Buried Ruin can get some key artifacts back, while Bojuka Bog can help take care of an opposing graveyard if needed. Lake of the Dead is a good source for fast mana. Being mono black, this deck is set up to abuse Cabal Coffers and Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth to get all the mana you need. Strip Mine, Wasteland, and Rashadan Port help keep your opponents off their resources, and with Horobi out, lands like Mazavith and Shizo Death Storehouse can also act as sources of removal. For even more utility, we have Miko Koro, Center of the Sea, Thespian Stage, Vesuva, and Undiscovered Paradise to abuse the landfall triggers in the deck. Valrest Stronghold is creature recursion in case Horobi gets a little out of hand. Rounding out the mana base are 20 basic swamps. Now for the strengths and weaknesses of the deck. For its strengths. It can constantly keep the battlefield one-sided with all the creature killing effects. Is consistently fast and can overwhelm creatures with all the zombies. It thwarts many common EDH strategies such as Voltron and enchantment-based strategies. It has the resiliency to play well into the late game. Its weaknesses. It does substantially better with Horobi in the game. If you aren't careful, opponents can start to abuse Horobi's ability just as much as you. Decks that thrive on full graveyards or decks with very few creatures can be a problem. It draws some serious ire from everyone else at the table. You should play this deck if you enjoy high risk, high reward generals, you love killing your opponent's creatures, or you love zombie hordes. Thanks for watching this episode of The Other 99. If you love the core themes of Black, then this deck is perfect for you. Thanks to Quasimofo for sharing his deck with us. For next time, vote on YouTube, Facebook, Tumblr, or Twitter for either Captain Sisay, Una Queen of the Fae, or Rurik Thar the Unbowed. I'm Karsten with Top Productions, and as always, thanks for watching.